Hi, I'm Joni Patry, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Well, today I want to talk about how to predict earthquakes, which is not an easy thing to do because you basically really have to know all the birth charts of cities and countries to be able to predict it accurately as to where it's going to be occurring. But I did have a very interesting experience back when I used to have a Japanese website. I was hired to write monthly predictions for Japan, and I did this for about 7 years. And it was the month before March of 2011 that I predicted there would be a massive earthquake in Japan. And we all know that the very next month, March, well, I predicted in February for the month of March, but March 11th of 2011, there was a catastrophic earthquake that was, I think, over 9 on the Richter scale. It was horrible, created one of the worst tsunamis, destroyed the city of Japan. And people have never gone back. And even all of the plants that had all the nuclear energy, they exploded, and we were all worried it was in the ocean. Remember how bad that was? But anyway, so I love that I made that prediction because I got so many thank yous from many of the people in Japan saying that they canceled their wedding dates for that month based on my prediction. And they were very gracious and thankful. So this is the power of how astrology can really help us and prevent things. It's like I say, astrology is a weather forecast. If I'm saying it's raining, do you go out with an umbrella? You prepare. So I want to show you how I did this. And by the way, my book here, Secrets of Prediction, I wrote this a while back. It's about how I make world predictions. This is called mundane astrology, how you can see what's happening in the world. And one of the things that I always say are the biggest determinant, first of all, is you have to look at the outer planets. When you look at the outer planets, their aspects, they create world events. And yes, the outer planets will be forming an aspect for a very long duration. But it's when the faster moving planets come up and trigger the long-standing outer planets that have stayed in aspect. I'll prove my point by looking at these charts. Now remember, in the 1960s, the Uranus and Pluto conjunction were together almost all of the 60s, and that created the rebellion. It created all the racial tensions, assassinations, all those incredibly dire things that the Uranus-Pluto conjunction represented. Rebellion, Uranus. Pluto, explosions and breakdown of the old that didn't work anymore. So then, while we had that tight conjunction, it was the faster moving planets, such as Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, as they triggered that long-standing conjunction. Because when they're together for so long, how do you predict when something is bound to happen? Even the moon was a trigger on September 11th. It came into play with the long-standing aspects and was the trigger down to the day. So let me go ahead and show you these charts. First, let's put up the Japan earthquake, which happened in March 11th of 2011. And here is the long-standing aspect. And let's also put up the chart for Japan that I use. And by the way, my interpreter, Yoshi, she would give me the charts that I needed, such as this is the chart that she gave me for Japan. So it started after World War II that they started to rebuild Japan, which this chart is for November 3rd of 1946. But looking at this, we even have a time for this chart. We have a Scorpio ascendant. And if you will look, let's compare both these charts together and you're going to see something very significant. First of all, the transit of Neptune, a long-standing planet, on the day of the earthquake was around 5 degrees of Aquarius. And if you will look at the chart of Japan, Neptune was exactly squaring Mars, just less than a degree, where Mars is in Scorpio at 4 degrees. And Mars is so important to this chart. Why? Because it is the chart ruler. Whatever planet rules the ascendant, rules the chart. And it's wherever it is so vitally important. So it sits in the first house. And Neptune is in the fourth house. The fourth house represents the homeland in every mundane chart. Mundane means of the world. And so that was something that was forming for a long duration. So what was the trigger? Now, there were other things which I have in my book, Secrets of Prediction, that tells you more about these charts. But just to make it simple, if you'll notice the transit of Mars, remember the transiting planets are on the day that the earthquake hit. Transiting Mars hit the midpoint of Rahu and Ketu, okay? Rahu and Ketu in the chart. So in the transit chart, you'll see that Mars was exactly with Neptune, I mind you, and it was at the midpoint of Rahu and Ketu. So that's very important. So notice that Mars was 18 degrees of Aquarius. And it is at the midpoint in the chart for Japan, where Rahu and Ketu are at 19 degrees of Taurus and 19 degrees of Scorpio. Now, there's something very important I need to mention before I forget, and that is transiting Uranus right now is at 15 degrees of Aries. And let me show you, and as we look at the United States chart, you're going to see that this is relative to what happened in the Japan chart. So remember, planets hitting the midpoint of Rahu and Ketu of a birth chart will trigger big things. It's actually called the bends in Western astrology. So here is another example of an earthquake, and I'll get back to that 15-degree Uranus. Let's now put up the earthquake that happened in San Francisco, California. And this earthquake happened in 1906. Let's put up this earthquake chart plus the United States chart that I used. That was actually rectified by Vedic astrologer James Kelleher. But here's what I want you to see about this chart. Notice that in the earthquake chart, Neptune and Uranus. By the way, let me explain something. Neptune and Uranus are the two variable planets that I look for most of all in earthquakes. Why? Because Uranus is sudden, unexpected events. And did you know that Neptune is probably, as you saw in the Japanese chart, is probably one of the most significant planets for earthquakes, almost over more than Uranus, but probably they're both pretty equal. So Neptune, actually in the old mythology, Neptune, the god of the seas, Poseidon Neptune, took his fork, his trident, and he would throw it at the ocean floor and the earth would shake. And that was how earthquakes started. And essentially, they usually start in the oceans and cause tsunamis. That's where the most damage comes from an earthquake. So don't forget the two planets, outer planets, that represent earthquakes the very most are Uranus and Neptune. So let's look at that San Francisco earthquake. Notice where Uranus and Neptune are. Neptune is 15 degrees of Gemini, while Uranus is 15 degrees of Sagittarius. And look what planet came in exactly at the midpoint, squaring both Uranus and Neptune at 15 degrees of Pisces. It's Mercury. And if you place these planets in the USA chart, you will find that Mercury, the trigger of these two planets, is in the 4th house of the United States chart. The 4th house is the homeland. It shook the earth there. So that's vitally important to understand that while Uranus, now I would probably have to have done charts for San Francisco to see exactly where it's happening, but I know it's happening in the United States because we're looking at the United States chart, and it happened in the homeland. So that's vitally important to understand. Now, the next thing that I wanted to inform you of, going back to the Uranus transit that I was talking about, because as we stand, transiting Uranus right now is at 15 degrees of Aries. And if you go back to the United States chart, look to where Rahu and Ketu are. Rahu and Ketu are in this birth chart for the United States. Rahu is in Capricorn, and Ketu is in the 2nd house, which is going to be in Cancer. No, it's the other way around. Excuse me. So for the United States chart, Ketu is 15 degrees of Capricorn, while Rahu is 15 degrees of Cancer. Now, put Uranus there at 15 degrees of Aries, and what do you get? Trigger of Rahu and Ketu. This is huge, dramatic, life-changing events in the United States. And Uranus will go back and forth between 15 degrees of Aries. It will be there so many times. First of all, April, well, right now, it's there as we speak, and right now I'm at the end of June, so June through July. Then it will go 15 degrees again between September 24th and October 21st. So it's pretty much staying very close to this degree between the summer months and the summer here in the United States. And then again, September 24th through October 21st, Uranus will go back to 15 degrees. And then by April 4th through about the 21st of 2021, Uranus will be back at 15 degrees. So all of these times are potent. And when a faster moving planet comes to trigger that degree mark, could be Mars. Mars will be very close to Uranus around January. So it will be, really it'll be in Aries December 24th of 2020, and it will stay there till February of 2021. And that is intense. So watch how earthquakes could be mounting. And it could happen now, between now and February. Something's due to happen, I'd have to say, with an earthquake in the United States, based on my theory of how this works. So with that, I'd like to close. If you would like more information on me, a consultation, or sign up for my free newsletter, please go to my website, which is galacticcenter.org. Or if you would like to study with me, learn Vedic astrology, become a part of our astrological community, go to my university website, which we have a new class starting in July. Go to my website, which is University of Vedic Astrology.com. Thank you.